These people are so sick, right? Because if Trump would have lost this election, this would have been full steam ahead. Assuming Smith finishes the report is whether Garland is going to release it before he leaves office, or if he's going to defer the release to Trump, who might not make it available. Yeah, right. They're going to give it to Trump.
Is there an apology from
from
President Biden for the words, some of the words used?
An apology from the president,
yes.
President Biden.
That's what he's asking.
Elect Trump for some of the words that was used on the campaign trail.
Fascist. Jack Smith is running scared, planning on retiring, according to this article from the New York Times, before Trump takes office. Doesn't want to get fired because he wants to finish his report and leave the job before he then gets investigated, hopefully, by the new DOJ led by Matt Gaetz, baby. Jack Smith, the special counsel who pursued 2 federal illegal prosecutions against Trump, is planning to finish his work and resign along with other members of his team before Trump comes in January. The goal, they said, is not to leave any significant part of his work for others to complete and to get ahead of President Trump's promise to fire him within 2 seconds of being sworn in. Mr. Smith, who since taking office has operated under the principle saying that not even a powerful ex-president is above the law, which is such a stupid rephrasing of this. Nobody was saying that. We're saying the law was not illegal, what he did, and you were using immune evidence to try to create a crime that did not exist. And also, the president is above the law in a way, okay, in many ways. The Constitution says that. The president is the law. That's why you don't prosecute a sitting president. That's why the president has the pardon power and can overturn a finding of guilt, literally above the law, all right? Now, Mr. Smith's office is still drawing up its plan for how to end the cases, and it's possible that unforeseen circumstances like judicial rulings or other things could alter the timeline. But Smith is trying to finish the work and leave before Trump comes back to power. The outcome of the election spelled the end of the federal cases because the DOJ has long held that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted for crimes. And a ruling this summer from SCOTUS said that there is immunity. And so as Jack prepares for his last act as special counsel, not even a real boy, the ultimate audience will not be the jury, but the American public, which is really what this has been all about this entire time. That's why they were racing the case to trial before the election. That's why they gagged President Trump. That's why they didn't give him any time to review millions of pages of documents. Instead, they deferred to Molly, highlighter girl, and just said, she did your discovery work for you. Just take it. Department regulations call for Jack to file a report summarizing his investigation and decisions. A document that may stand as the final accounting from a prosecutor that honestly, I don't think it's going to matter at all. It's going to be dead on arrival. Now, it's not clear how quickly he can finish this work, leaving uncertain whether it could be made public before Biden leaves office, but several officials said he has no intention of lingering any longer than he has to. Jack is typing feverishly right now. One team is shredding documents, the other's using ChatGPT to make up more crap. People spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss any of this. They say he's a former war crimes prosecutor who has been very inconsequential in American law, lost basically everything he's touched of consequence. On Friday, Republican lawmakers told DOJ officials who had worked on this case, we saw this from Jim Jordan, preserve your records, Jack. And he also got sued by Texas. They said, we want an injunction. Don't delete your cell phones. And we also want to know about every email that you sent to every other jurisdiction in the Trump prosecution cabal. That same day, Smith's team filed a court document in the J6 case, wanting to now wind down the case all of a sudden. Oops, we're done. Mr. Smith said he needed, and these people are so sick, right? Because if Trump would have lost this election, this would have been full steam ahead. They would have been insurrection. No one's above the law. Trial coming up soon. But now they're running scared. And they should have never brought any of this, right? The nation validated what the right decision was here. And they're just cowards. They should never have brought this. And there should be repercussions for them abusing their power and the law to do it. Referring to the fact that the defendant would soon take office, Smith said in a filing, he needed a month to assess this unprecedented circumstance. Idiots, it's not unprecedented. We've been running the election for a long time. Trump's been up in the polls. You guys were trying to create an unprecedented circumstance by prosecuting your political opponents. The only thing unprecedented in this whole thing is the criminal prosecution of a political opponent in America. Only thing. There's been other riots at the Capitol. There's been other people questioning the elections. Everything has happened before except what the DOJ did. They shattered 234 years of history. Now they're saying Trump winning the election is confusing to them. This type of special counsel report is supposed to be directed to Merrick Garland. He says, oh yeah, they're going to release this report. And again, I'm not even worried about it. You can say whatever you want. Is anybody going to read it or care? It's like, what else do they have? More lies from Clavicle Girl or something? In some cases, the findings can be revelatory. Robert Herr's report never made it out, the audio at least. And regulations require that a special counsel report decide or explain why they decided not to file charges. But like much of Mr. Smith's work, this step is fraught with technical and practical challenges that could make the report different and maybe even shorter than the lengthy tomes produced by other special counsels. polls. It's also unlikely to contain much in the way of anything new or revelatory. It's going to be a dud. They're even signaling it. What else does he have? It was a smear. There was no crime. Mr. Smith, who has been the subject of round-the-clock protection after receiving death threats, since taking over, well, hopefully he prosecutes them. Actually, he can't prosecute anybody because he's not even a real boy. Now, since he filed 2 separate and lengthy indictments last year against Mr. Trump, he supplemented that record with scores of court filings trying to smear Trump. Now, the big question is, assuming Smith finishes the report, is whether Garland is going to release it before he leaves office, or if he's going to defer the release to Trump, who might not make it available. Yeah, right. They're going to give it to Trump and let him decide. A spokeswoman for Mr. Garland declined to comment. We're sure they did. So Jack is running scared. He was prosecuting a fake insurrection crime that was made up. Trump obviously did not want that to happen at all, which is why they sent notice to Mayor Muriel Bowser before January 6th, I think on January 3rd, saying, we're ready to give you National Guard support, 10,000 people, so that nothing bad happens. She sent a letter back saying, we don't want your troops. Now, Muriel Bowser wants to meet with Trump so they can talk policy. Isn't that convenient? I hope they do. And Trump says, are you going to come out and take responsibility for what you've done? On Tuesday, she said, she has to meet with President-elect Trump. Trump, who has repeatedly expressed hostility towards the capital city that set him up and blamed him for their own failure, says they want to meet. Bowser said her team had reached out to Trump's staff to request a meeting, hadn't heard back. The campaign did not respond to a request for comment, but they did meet with Joe today. Although Bowser said her team had been vigorously prepared to, quote, defend the Deep Blue City from numerous potential attacks on local autonomy, she said on Tuesday she's searching for common ground now with President Trump. I want to make clear that Washington, D.C. is prepared to welcome the new administration, and we're committed to ensuring a smooth and collaborative transition this time. It would have been nice if you worked with him last time and actually accepted the support to secure the Capitol. With a lack of statehood and congressional oversight over its affairs, D.C. is vulnerable to interference from the federal government. They want D.C. to be a state, so those 93%ers who vote for Kamala, they have a permanent additional state and permanent additional electoral votes. So that can't happen. Republicans in Congress have already in recent years accelerated their attacks on the district's autonomy. Attacks? It's called governance. It's not an attack to say that D.C. is a corrupt cesspool. It's not an attack. It's just a characterization of what we believe it is. Bowser, in requesting to meet with Trump, said she's focused on policy priorities, namely her desire for the federal workforce to return to work in person, a revitalized downtown, and other things. So now she wants to play nice, and we'll see if that happens or not. But other transitions are happening. This was what was happening at the White House. Trump was there. He talked with Joe Biden, who welcomed him back with open arms, was smiling, shaking his hand after he raided his house, called him an enemy of democracy, belittled his supporters, called them garbage, screamed at everybody from the gates of hell, and prosecuted hundreds of J6ers raiding their homes. Now, Karine says they had a nice, cordial conversation together.
The president obviously hit on a wide range of issues, but did he get a sense that the issues that he was impressing upon, that any advice he was giving was being well received?
I think so. I think that's why the president was wanting me to let you all know that there was a very good back and forth, and it was substantive, as I mentioned before, and I want to be mindful. It was a private conversation, so I don't want to go into specifics or details, but look, they met for more than 2 hours. They met for a very long time, or nearly 2 hours, pardon me. And I think by the length of the meeting tells you that they had in-depth conversation on an array of issues. And so, look, the president reached out to the president-elect wanting to make sure that he gave an opportunity to the president-elect, afforded him that opportunity to have a meeting with him to talk about the different issues that matter to the American people. But nearly 2 hours says a lot about how the meeting went.
Any plans to keep a line of communication open?
The president is always going to obviously keep that line of communication open to the president-elect. We got to remember, this is not about the two presidents. This is not about President Biden or President-elect Trump. This is about the American people and what's right for the American people. And if anything, the president has led by example, right, over the last week now on making sure that we have this cordial transition of power.
All right, so interesting because they just got done castigating him and his supporters for the last 9 months and beyond, years actually. And so they got asked about this too. Are you going to apologize for this, Karine?
In the meeting, we saw a unified front related to a transition in the Oval Office meeting, but a lot was said on the campaign trail, like Trump is a dangerous threat to our country and our democracy. Was there an apology today?
Oh,
I'm sorry?
Was there an apology from
President
Biden for the words, some of the words used?
An apology from the president,
yes.
President Biden.
That's what he's asking.
Like Trump, for some of the words that was used on the campaign trail.
Fascist, threat to American
and I've answered
democracy.
this a couple of times about a threat to democracy in the past week. The president is going to always feel obligated to be honest with the American people.
Okay.
What he says still stands.
What? He is a threat?
And it's not just him. You heard this from former staffers. You've heard it from the
She's
former chief of staff,
so bad
John
at
Kelly,
this.
and others. You've heard it directly from the president-elect, the former president, about enemy of the people. Very, very clear. What we want to be also very clear about is the importance of listening to the will of the American people. There was an election. It is important to respect our institution.
Okay, so
It
I
is
guess
important
the
to
American
respect
people
the free and fair elections.
voted for a threat to American
and that's
democracy
what
by her
this
logic.
president is doing, leading by example and putting that aside and putting the American people first. But what he said still stands.
Wow, okay.
And it's not just him. We should not just put this at the president.
I don't even know. Do they even try? Is there anybody that even prepares her at all in these press briefings? It's not even a complicated thing. I'm not a PR expert just to say, well, what the president was talking about was about some of the issues and some of the campaign rhetoric that came out when Trump was campaigning. And he was responding to those, that some of those ideas and concepts could be very dangerous to our country. But now that the president has won and the people have spoken, we're hopeful that the new Trump administration will continue to come in and abide by the ideals that we've set in place here in the Biden administration, which is wide open borders. Everybody can come here because we don't care. We want multiple wars. We love killing everybody all over the place on both sides of everything. No problem. But we've established those values, obviously. And so even though Trump was talking about securing the border and all those things, we hope that he comes in and recognizes that he can't be murderous like us and then, talk like that. Gosh, she'll be gone soon, my friends. So we don't have to worry about it. Did Kamala Harris come by today?
Did Vice President Harris stop by the meeting at all today? And does she intend to host Vice
So I can say the vice president did not attend the meeting between the two presidents this morning. I would have to refer you to her team.
Kamala. I'm not going to go meet with Trump. All right, fine. Stay home. All right, so now we have Senator Thune, who's going to be leading the Senate. Here's what he said about rapidly confirming Trump's nominees.
Leader Thune, you said that recess appointments are on the table. That's a key demand from President-elect Donald Trump. Will you move forward with that?
Well, what we're going to do is make sure that we are processing his nominees in a way that gets them into those positions so they can implement his agenda. How that happens remains to be seen. Obviously, we want to make sure our committees have confirmation hearings like they typically do, and that these nominees reported out to the floor. But I've said this, and I mean it, that we expect a level of cooperation from the Democrats.
Well, that's your first mistake there, buddy boy.
To get these folks installed. And obviously, we're going to explore all options to make sure that they get moved and that they get moved quickly.
All right, we'll see what happens. That's going to be the new leader. Hopefully, he's more communicative than our old leader, Senator Mitch McConnell. So Thune will be in charge. Tom Cotton's back there. We'll see what they do. They better appoint those nominees, and they better do it quickly. We'll see where it goes. Thanks for subscribing, my friends, as our coverage continues.